Hey everybody out there on YouTube, this is Sawyer's House of Games, and I am doing my first Keyforge video. This is basically on the game Keyforge, which is a new kind of just came out a couple days ago. It's created by Fantasy Flight Games, and it is a kind of procedurally generated deck game. You know, you don't actually play with you buy the booster packs are decks, and you basically open the pack or whatever, and it's a deck, and you play with that deck. You're not allowed to modify it, change it, or anything like that. It comes as it is. But the cool thing is that they claim that every single deck is going to be a little bit different with a different variation of cards, and different numbers and stuff with copies of the cards and all that. And it is interesting. The decks have procedural generated names, which are interesting, and this is basically what they call it in this game. It's kind of like a commander in Magic, but they call it something else in this game, and it is essentially the thing that holds your whole deck together. It doesn't actually do anything board game wise, like board state wise or anything, but it basically is your deck list. On the back side, it's your deck list, and on the front side, it's your procedurally generated character with your three houses, which are basically your three colors. I'm going to make a lot of references to Magic because that's my main thing I play. So that's my main reference point, and it's also pretty relatable for most people that are into card games. But yeah, this is basically a character that is Shadow, Mars, and Lario. I can never say that last one. I'll eventually learn it, but it's taking a second. And basically, on the back side, you have a deck list, which is this is like the deck list. If you ever go to a tournament and you bring this deck and it doesn't have the exact numbers that are on this deck list, you could probably get disqualified or whatever, because they keep it. That's how they try to keep the game fair and whatnot. And it has a code on the bottom, which you can use at the on the app. Like there's a companion app, and that will allow you to basically be able to like keep score of the deck. It keeps a digital copy of it basically that you can reference, and and you can also, when you go to tournaments, it's supposed to also, I think it's supposed to actually keep track when you go to like sanctioned tournaments. It's supposed to keep track of your win ratio and stuff with that. So that's kind of cool. That's pretty cool. But most people don't. No one really shows their code. It's not really like. It's basically just to keep your deck from being registered by someone else, which is not a huge deal, but you'll find that pretty much everybody doesn't show their code on YouTube videos or Facebook posts or anything like that. So I just went ahead and markered mine out on the sleeve. This is a perfect fit. I feel like perfect fits are actually pretty cool for the commander guy, because it's see-through, so you can just flip it real quick if you need to look at a deck list, or if your opponent or someone else needs to look at a deck list. You don't have to keep taking it out of the sleeve, which is kind of annoying, but it does still protect it, so that's good. Let's go ahead and get into the deck list itself, like the actual cards. I'm gonna start with the science division, as I call them. This is every house in the game has kind of a different feel to it, and gameplay mechanic wise, and flavor wise. And this house is very much like a scientist and inventions and artifacts, and like flavor wise, they're very much like a scientific engineers and stuff like that, make machines and stuff. And game mechanic wise, a lot of their cards are about drawing cards and upgrades, which are basically equipments. And they also have a lot of artifacts, it seems like, that are basically like artifacts in Magic. No, but and I don't think every deck's gonna be exactly like that, but this one, it definitely feels like that's the role this house is playing. So we got this guy. Basically, this allows a creature to be equipped, and it basically gives a haste, is what it does. Essentially, I'm gonna continue to use Magic references. We got Slippery Time Hog, which is such a great name and cool art. This one basically allows you. It basically like silences your opponent for the next turn. Again, another Magic reference. This one is basically gonna, each time you use an artifact, you gain 1 amber, which amber is basically the main resource of the game. Is how you win the game. Now, amber can be stolen and taken away, but it is the main resource of the game. So anything that gives you amber is always good. Sorry, I'm kind of a sore throat right now. This is a Spectral Tunneler. This is basically a artifact that allows you to choose a creature and it basically gives some defense bonuses to that creature, and also allows you to draw cards off that creature. This one is Lebwork. This is basically a spell. It allows you to basically archive a card, which essentially allows you to take a card from your hand or your deck or other places, depending on the card text, and allows you to put it into another zone where you can retrieve it on your next turn, like basically free of cost. Then we have a Library of Babel. I think that's how you say that. Action, draw a card. This is a artifact, so it means every turn you can tap that to use that action ability and draw a card, or ready it, whatever the term that this game uses, because Magic has that copyrighted. Then we have Mother, which I really like. I really love the art in this card. I love the art on a lot of this house's cards, actually. Robot Scientist. During your draw step, refill your hand to one additional card. That's pretty cool. Basically allows you to get an extra card draw every turn, because you do draw a lot of cards in this game, because you always have to fill your hand back up to the difference of how many you use that turn. This is a cool card. I really like the art in this one. Cyborg Scientist. When you play it, you gain 1 amber for each forged key your opponent has. Now, the most amber you can possibly get with that card is free, because the most keys you can have is free, because once you get free keys, you win the game. But still, I mean, you can get up to 2 amber off of that guy just by playing them, which is not bad. Let's see. This is a really cool card. This basically allows you to destroy a damaged creature. And this is one of those games where damage stays on the creature. It's kind of like how Pokemon does. So this is a very handy card. It can easily destroy something really huge, even if you just put like 1 damage on it. When we got Twin Bolt, basically it allows you to, it's another spell, allows you to do 2 damage to a creature and deal 2 damage to a different creature. So basically like kind of like a art tail or whatever. Basically like one of the various double burns they have in Magic. Then we have Phase Shift. You may play 1 card of this house this turn. This is actually really interesting, because one of the core mechanics of this game is that that every turn you have to choose a house, and you have to play cards from that house. You can't, or attack with cards in that house. You can't do anything else. But that card, changes the rule text. It basically says you can play 1 more, card that's not of the same house this turn. So that's actually really cool. It can allow you to get a little more advantage. We have Brain Eater. After a creature is destroyed, fighting Brain Eater, draw a card. So basically it just draws a card every time you kill something. And now we're going into Shadow. Shadow is basically like your mono black in Magic. It's very it's a lot of life steal, or in this case amber stealing, and it's a lot of kind of card manipulation stuff. Creatures, most of its creatures are kind of small, but they're very elusive. They're very hard to kill or hard to hit and damage. So when we have Urchin basically has elusive, which is basically means that the first time you attack it, you're not going to do any damage to it. And then it has, coming to play, steal 1 amber. That's pretty solid for a small creature. I mean, there's no mana cost in this game, so small creatures don't really, you could easily play a bunch of big ass strong guys if you have them and you have the right house. So it's interesting how they do that. Ghostly Hand. This is actually a really cool card. It's kind of a little bit situational. As far as I'm aware, you can actually play this card even if you don't meet the requirement. You just won't get the extra effect. But still, it gives you 2 amber just by playing it. And then if you actually resolve the effect, you get a 3rd amber. So I mean, it's like 3 amber for one card, and you also get to take an amber from your opponent. So that's like a 4 amber difference, that you're making on you and your opponent, which is pretty crazy. Another one. This deck came with 2 of them. The copies of cards are kind of random. Like sometimes you get 2 copies of cards, sometimes you get 3. I think I've heard people say they get 4, but I haven't gotten any of those yet. I've only opened 3 decks so far. Another Urchin. We're not gonna really go over the copies. No need to. Then we have Relentless Whispers. Basically, you deal 2 damage to a creature. If that damage destroys that creature, you steal amber. So that's kind of cool, and it gives you amber. Basically, if a card has that yellow at the top underneath the house symbol, that means you gain an amber when you play it. So they're basically pretty good. Those spells are usually pretty solid. Then we have Bait and Switch, which is basically if your opponent has more amber than you, steal 1, and then repeat this process if your opponent steals it. This is really cool. It basically allows you to close the distance on the amber difference between you and your opponent, which is pretty powerful in my opinion. This is special delivery. Sacrifice special delivery. Deal 3 damage to a flank creature, which basically means creatures on the sides. If his damage destroys that creature, purge it, which basically means remove it from the game, which is a very important part of the card, because this game does allow you to shuffle your graveyard back into your deck whenever you run out of cards. So there is a way you can easily like keep playing the same card if the game goes long enough. This card also has Omi, which it basically means that you can play it, or you can use the effect even if you didn't declare that house this turn. So that's really powerful, because you can put that down. Normally when you put artifacts down, you don't always get to use them right when you want to, because you're forced to play a different house that turn. But that card allows you to basically always have something extra to do, even if you declare a different house. This is really cool. Poison Wave. This is basically a pyroclasm. If you ever played Magic, it deals 2 damage to everything. And it gives you an amber, which is pretty cool. Silent Dagger. I always think this card's like upside down, but it's really not. Silent Dagger. This is really cool. This creature gains Weep, which basically means tap and deal 4 damage to a flank creature. That's really powerful. I'll say really powerful. I had a game the other day, and that card really helped me out, so I know that's why I say that. Another Poison Wave. Then we have this guy. Basically, he has elusive, and he basically allows you to return urchins in your play or discard pile, which is kind of cool if you have a lot of urchins, which this deck does have a few urchins. So then we have Booby Trap. Deal 4 damage to a creature that is not on a flank, and deal with a 2 damage splash. So this card basically, if you hit something in the middle of like a row or whatever, it's going to do 4 damage, and it's going to do 2 more damage to 2 different creatures. So you're getting like 8 damage altogether, and you can possibly kill 3 creatures with that card, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Plus you get an amber. Then now we're into Mars. Mars is kind of like the green of this game. It's very beefy, big powerful creatures. It also has a lot of like stunning and various kind of like situational protection kind of abilities and stuff. But it definitely feels like green the most to me. And it is green because with the cards anyway. I thought that was kind of cool. This is basically a 9/1. Well, it's a 9/9 essentially, but it has 1 armor, and it has taunt, which basically means that creature has to be destroyed in order to be able to attack any neighbors, which are basically the cards around that guy. But he enters the play stunned, so you do have to spend a whole extra turn just to unstun him. This deck came with 3 of these, so that's pretty cool, pretty interesting. I think that's why I like this deck so much, because it's kind of more consistent than some of the other decks I've pulled. Then we have Deep Probe. This is a really cool card. This card screwed my opponent over so bad. I only got to play this deck 1 time so far, but this card screwed my opponent over so bad because he had just played his Horseman card that allows him to get all his Horsemen from his graveyard back to his hand, but he didn't get a chance to actually play any of them. So on the next turn, I knew he had like 8 with a Horseman creatures in his hand or whatever. So I went ahead and declared Sanctum and just discarded them all. So it's really awesome in that regard. If you have knowledge that what's in your opponent's hand, you can just rip it apart. Even if you don't, you can make a good guess, because you can. If you haven't seen them play a certain house in a few turns, they're probably saving up stuff, so you can play that, which is pretty cool. Then we have Clouds, whatever it is. Basically allows you to do 3 damage to each creature, so it's even better than Poison Clouds, which is pretty cool. This deck has quite a few board wipes. I mean, you've already seen like 3 of them, and then also and it has a couple other multiple damage spells, which is pretty cool. Sample Collection basically allows you to put an enemy creature into your archives for each key your opponent has. So basically, this allows you to basically like take up to 2 of your opponent's creatures and take them away and put them in your archives, which is kind of cool. Then we have this guy, basically elusive, fights. He can reap and ready somebody. Not really that interesting. I don't really like that one as much. This one is it's okay in my opinion. It basically allows your creature to come back into the archive instead of going to the graveyard, and it gives you amber. And nothing too special in my opinion. Kind of a filler card. This one seems like it could be good, but I just never really get I've actually played 2 games, but I only played 1 game with this deck. But I have played this card a couple times in different decks, and I feel like this one is just kind of it's kind of situational. It can help sometimes, especially the artifact destruction. But I don't know. I feel like the stunning is just kind of a temporary band-aid. It doesn't really save you most of the time. Another one of those, which is kind of okay. Another one of these. And then we have the last card is Swasher. Basically, ready a Mars creature or stun and non-Mars, which is kind of cool. It gives you options, you know. It gives you a little bit of variety for one card. So that is the deck, guys. I'll show you. God dang it. I dropped the card. Let's get it. I will show you the deck list one more time. You know, like so you can pause it or whatever, and so in case me visually showing you the deck list wasn't enough for you. But yeah, I actually really like this one. I mean, I want to play this one more. Out of the 3 decks I bought, this is my favorite one so far. So yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'm gonna try and put out more of these videos. I don't know what other kind of videos I'll put out for Keyforge, but I'm definitely at least gonna put out deck visual lists or guides or whatever. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned and have a good time playing this game, guys.